Hi, Nerd Mom here. I'm going to do another book rundown for things that my 6-year-old has been reading lately. Number one on the list is The Number Devil, a mathematical adventure. I found this just by Googling math books for kids, and he really enjoyed it. It's a story of a little boy who gets visited by this number devil who introduces a lot of different math concepts, and your kid doesn't need to be totally up on all the math stuff. It really does a good job of introducing it and making it fun, even if they don't know step by step what's going on. My son is really bored with his first grade basic addition and subtraction, so I'm always looking for some other ways to expand his mathematical thinking because he's super into math. So there's just, as you can see, it shows you different ways you can play with numbers, like square roots and just different little tricks, and it has a lot of good illustrations. Let me see if I can find a good one here. Something like this. It's got charts that illustrate different concepts, and he went through this really quickly, really enjoyed it, and I can tell from his conversation about math and stuff that he's really picked up on a lot of stuff here, and he has gathered a lot of vocabulary, at least, that will serve him well in the future. So in that vein, I also ordered this one, sort of as a follow-up, The Adventures of Penrose, the Mathematical Cat. He actually hasn't read this one yet. I just put this one in front of him, so he hasn't had a chance. I'm not as impressed with the illustrations on this one. It's more rudimentary and sort of simple. It's, you can just see it's kind of like outlines, and I don't like the illustrations as well, but each chapter is kind of like a game or a math puzzle that you can try to solve, and this cat takes you through it. So this is more challenging your kid to really do it themselves. So it's sort of like the next step from The Number Devil. So that's a couple of good math book suggestions. Now I'm just going to go into his fun reading stuff. This one is old school. The Wonderful Flight to the Mushroom Planet. This is from the 50s, and it was something that my husband read as a kid, and he really enjoyed, so he just got it for our son. And it's just sort of a fanciful sci-fi fantasy with, I think, some magic thrown in. My kid really enjoyed this. Beware, if you do pick this up, you can get this one, but I think it's a trilogy. There's like 3 or 4 books, and the other ones are no longer available, but you can check with your library. We found that we could get these through the library, so we're going to pick up the next volumes that way. So yeah, just sort of one of those old school things, but stays around, and it's still good. All right, this one was a birthday present. My son's not quite 7 yet, but he had his party and he picked up some good stuff. This one is called The Great Pet Escape. It's a graphic novel. It's pretty short. You can see it's thin. It's by Victoria Jamieson. He really enjoyed this because it's really good for his age level. It's got some higher level vocabulary, but obviously it's illustrated, so you can understand what's going on even if you don't understand every single thing. And he actually learned a lot of words from this because a lot of times the more complex vocabulary is actually explained by the other characters who don't get it. For example, the word pacifist, he was like, what's that? So we had some good conversations about words in this book. It really appeals to younger grade level kids because these pets are classroom pets. So the main pets or the main characters are like a first grade class pet, a kindergarten class pet. So there's a lot of commentary about early grade school. And that really appealed to my kid because it really reached his level in, the world that he's dealing with. So this felt very relevant to him. Well, I find that a lot of other stuff aimed at kids is often aimed at sort of older level kids with a sophistication that he doesn't quite get yet, or, just life experiences that he hasn't had yet. So this is very much where he was at. He's read it 3 times now. Once he read it out loud to his little brother, who is 3. His little brother also really enjoyed this. The illustrations are very good. They're comical. And so that was a good bonding thing for them. So that was cool. It's a good read aloud. Let's see, what have I got? Another great birthday present. I didn't even know about this, but it's really cool. It's called Lucy and Andy Neanderthal. And this is a graphic novel. It's about that thick. The pages are pretty thick though, so it's not super long. It's basically goes back and forth between these two kids living, in the Stone Age. And then it goes to some, I don't know, they're archaeologists or paleontologists or something that talk about the things that the kids do and the tools that they use and stuff. So it's actually very educational while also being funny and a story. So he really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really cool, and it's a great educational and also, fun reading book. So that was cool. All right, this one's just for fun. The 52-story Treehouse. I believe that there are other ones that we didn't get because there's the 13-story Treehouse, the 26-story Treehouse, the 39-story Treehouse. So this is, I guess, number 4 in this series, and it's one of those books that's got some text, some pictures. Some pages are all pictures, some pages are, more text than others. And each chapter is like a different little story about these kids who have this ginormous treehouse. And it's all sorts of silly. Like everything is silly in here. It's very comic humor, very, Wile E. Coyote kind of thing. There's a lot of bodily injury going on and some, potty humor and stuff like that. So this is definitely appeal to fans of Captain Underpants and that sort of thing. My kid was cackling and telling me all the ridiculous jokes that he was reading about and stuff. So he really enjoyed this. We'll probably pick up some more of these. All right, some more serious stuff. This one just came out, and we got it because it looked really cool. It's a new one by Neil Gaiman, who we enjoy, so that's cool. It's called Odd and the Frost Giants, and it's about this little boy, and it has this adventure that he has basically in Norse mythology. So it's sort of a kid's introduction to Norse mythology. It's got lots of different characters. It has this one-eyed bird, whom you can probably guess who that is. And so it's kind of some pages are all illustrations. And then it sort of alternates with this storybook text illustration, full pages of text. I think this would be something that could be good to read to your kid, or if they want to read it themselves, they can. My kid read this himself. I haven't read it yet, but I think I will borrow it from him and read it next. Since he enjoyed that, we decided to go with Neil Gaiman's Coraline. We actually did this as my nightly story time with him, and what I did was I downloaded the audiobook and we listened to it because if you're not familiar with Neil Gaiman, he is an excellent storyteller, and his verbal storytelling skills are fantastic. So I love listening to him read aloud. I've seen him several times. I've gone to events where he was speaking and stuff, and he's always amazing. And once you sort of hear his voice reading a story, you can't read his writing without hearing his voice. So it's very nice. And he does the voices and stuff. So this book is sort of, he describes it himself as children experience it as a grand adventure, and parents find it very frightening. We found this to be true. It's really creepy, but it's really good. Neil Gaiman does a really good job of digging into really deep folklore that has been sort of handed down in our culture. This one is about a little girl in England who goes through, there's a door in her house that's walled up, and one night she goes through that door into another world where her other mother lives, and she gets entrapped in this alternate world. So it's kind of like a spooky, scary story, but not too scary. I don't think my kid was ever genuinely freaked out by this. It's just sort of a low level creepy, and you're always sort of assured that Coraline is very confident in herself, so she's going to be okay. So like Gaiman said, my son experienced this as a wonderful adventure, and I really enjoyed it because it talks about different some of those like fairy tale things, like, you know, if you don't appreciate your parents, like they may be replaced with other parents, and fairy circles, and you know, stones with holes in them and stuff like that. Just different sort of magical, like reading tea leaves, things like that. So I really like those things, and it was cool to pass it on to my son because he's sort of, you know, Mr. Robots and Math guy. He doesn't always, you know, like the fairy folk tales that I like. So this was a good one for us to share. Since he enjoyed those two, I thought, well, maybe we'll hit Stardust next, because that's a good adventure about, you know, a young man going off on his own and, you know, finding his destiny, and there's like pirates and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I started reading it to him and he was just like, and it's mainly because the beginning is very slow. There's pages of descriptions of this village and this fair that's going on, and it was just kind of like, no, that's enough. So if you wanted to try this one with your kid, it's definitely one you'd probably have to read to your kid. Maybe like just sort of read through the first chapter. Actually, I'm not sure it's in chapters, but read through the first 20 pages, and maybe you want to skip over some stuff to get right to the story. I think maybe we'll watch the movie instead, because I liked the movie and my kid hasn't seen it. So that's a no on this one, at least for the time being. And then my final one is one that I did not expect my kid to read this, okay? He came to me one day and he was like, Mom, I read all my books. I don't have any more books. I need more books. And I was like, great, like we don't have time to go to the library right now. I don't know what I want to give you. He's still at the point where he's like, not very confident about choosing his own books, so he likes me to find books for him, which is sort of a good thing and also a challenge. So I looked at my shelf and I pulled off Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, a classic of science fiction, right? It won the Hugo, the Nebula. Anyway, it's a great book. If you haven't read it, I won't spoil it for you, but you should pick it up. Anyway, so I handed it to him thinking, like, I mean, you can see this. This is a grown-up book, right? I mean, it's a serious book. And I handed it to him thinking, oh, he'll read a few pages and then kind of like, that'll be it. And then maybe we'll read it together. Like, this will be something that I'll read to him at story time. No. Right now, as you can see, this is where he is. He's on page 259 of like 320. It's taken him a while, and he's sort of taken breaks to read those other books that I just did, but he is super into this. And I think it really appeals to him because, number one, the protagonist is a kid like him. The kid is like, basically the premise is that he's in like this kid's battle school because they need these kids to like practice to fight these aliens that are coming. Anyway, so there's a battle school where he's practicing, and it's very gamified. Like the kids are competing against each other. They're getting strategies together, and they're working together. They're working against each other because there's different teams and stuff. And my kid, who is definitely a gamer, really relates to that. And so he's like super into that. He's sort of like pooped out at the end here, and so last night I was like, dude, like you got to read the rest of it, and he's like, well, I want to read something else, and I'm like, buddy, you got to get to the end because like there's a surprise at the end. And he's like, what? Like I said, if you don't know it, I won't ruin the surprise, but his guesses were just like totally off, so I'm really waiting to see like what he thinks when he gets to the end. And just looking forward to the discussions that we'll have. I don't like to ask my kids a lot of questions about like what they're reading because I don't want to like spoil it, and I don't want to feel like them to feel like they're pressured. So the only thing I have asked him about this book, as I said one morning, I said, kid's name, The Enemy's Gate is where? And he was like, down. The enemy's gate is down. If you read that book, you know that this is like a key line is Ender figuring out that the enemy's gate is down. So anyway, that's cool. I'm excited to be able to share that with my kid. We also just started reading, and I don't have a physical copy. I'm doing it on the Kindle, but we started reading I, Robot for his, stuff that I'm reading him at bedtime. Asimov's classic collection of short stories. Amusingly, the first story, called Robbie, is the classic one about the little girl who has this relationship with her nanny robot. And it takes place in 1998, when any, in Asimov's distant future, robots that can talk are the size of houses because they have to have all this space, right? And this little girl's nanny robot can't talk, but is, basically like a humanoid robot and stuff. So it's very interesting to be reading that with my kid, who literally asks a computer about this big for the weather report every morning, for his music, and he has conversations. We have Alexa from Amazon, so he's having conversations with computers every day, and reading this with him is sort of like this retro science fictional experience, but it's also kind of, in a way, like, even though there's differences, it's kind of where he lives right now. And it's amazing to realize, like, we live in the future, like, we're here. So that's pretty cool. I'll see how that goes as we continue going through the stories and they get further and further into Asimov's, imagined future. So I'll see what he thinks of that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this rundown. Glad to share. I will see you next time I get some books together or we do something else. Thanks for watching.